My dear students, let us continue where I left from the previous class. So in the last class, previous class, I was just discussing the gas atomization process. So we just discussed with two different atomization techniques, gas atomization technique, one is the vertical type, and one is the horizontal type. So then final word for the gas atomization. An inert gas atomization is applicable for all metallic alloys which can be melted. The main application for this the main application is for high alloy products such as stainless steel, tool steels, iron, nickel, or cobalt-based superalloy powders, as well as for aluminum alloy powders. So inert gas atomization technique, what we discussed, it is most suitable for the powders, metal powders, which may be the form of a stainless steel, or it might be a tool steels or iron or nickel. Limiting factors are availability of suitable crucibles and auxiliary or helpful melting process materials. Powders from refractory metals with a high melting temperature and highly reactive materials, such as titanium alloys, are usually produced by other metals. This is what gas atomization technique here. Okay. Let us move on to the second process, this second atomization technique, which we call it as a liquid atomization. So liquid atomization, we discuss under two different headings. One is called water atomization, and second one is called cryogenic liquid atomization. Okay. So what is the basic principle behind these two different types of liquid atomization? We will discuss in detail now. So let us start with the first one, water atomization. Water atomization is mainly used for the production of iron-based powders. So we have the water atomization technique, and which is specifically meant for iron-based powders. And we have a sketch in the next slide. I will show that. Okay. The starting materials is melted and metallurgically treated in a separate furnace, and then fed to the tundish. The tundish provides a uniformly flowing vertical melt stream, which is disintegrated into the droplets in the focal area of the arrangement of several water jets. The impact from the high pressure stream of water leads to the disintegration of the flowing metal. A high energy input to the water stream is needed. So here we have a starting material is melted and metallurgically treated in a separate furnace. So the process will remain same. So before we start for atomization, so the melting has to be done. So either it metallurgically it needs to be treated, and then it is fed to the condition. This is just like the process what we are having is just like a process here. Yeah. The tundish provides a uniformly flowing vertical melt stream, which is disintegrated into the droplets in the focal area of the arrangement of several water jets. This is what we are talking about, tundish. Okay. So tundish, what does it do? So it will provide a vertical flow of the molten metal. Okay. Vertical flow of molten metal. And here is the nozzle for us, through which there is a stream of water will be flowing. So in the previous gas atomization, we have an inert gases. So in this case, a water. So water will be flowing through the nozzle, and the tundish, so which is what we call it as a tundish, so which will provide the vertical flow of a molten metal into the container. So this is what which will arrange in several water droplets, disintegrated into the drop. So now as it passes through, and once it comes in contact with the high velocity jet of water through the nozzle, okay, so this high velocity jet of water will disperses that molten metal into the droplets. This is what we are showing over here. You can see here, okay, so how the molten metal getting into the droplets as it engages with a high velocity jet of water. Okay. So the impact from the high pressure stream of water leads to disintegration of the flowing metal, high energy input to the water stream is needed. In the sense, in order to get a high velocity, we need to supply the external source of energy, and that makes the water to flow at a higher velocity, and it will, as it impinges over the molten metal which is flowing to the finish, then it converts or it makes that molten metal into the droplets. So after droplets, it converted into droplets, the droplets will be connected in the tank and it undergoes solidification and cooling, and you will go into get a power. So this is the basic principle behind water atomization. Okay, and this type of process is specifically meant for the iron-based power. So in water atomization, the high pressure water stream is forced through the nozzle to form a dispersed phase of droplets which can impact the molten stream. In this method, large quantities of energy is required to supply the water at high pressure. This production method is significant for low and high alloy steels, including stainless steel. Because of oxide formation, water atomization is not likely to be used in the atomization of highly reactive metals such as titanium and superalloys. In general, water atomized powders are irregular in shape with rough raised surfaces. The process is similar to that of gas atomization here. So here we don't use gas, instead of that we use the water which is flowing at a high velocity. This method of producing the powder is more significant for low and high alloy steels, including stainless steel. And because the water generally it has got a tendency to form the oxides, and this kind of method, this water atomization method is not suitable for atomizing the highly reactive metals such as titanium and silver. And also, so the powders what we are going to get from this method, that is water atomization technique, is have an irregular shape, and the surfaces will have a rough oxidized surfaces, means you go to find oxidization layers over the surfaces. So this is the nature and the shape and the type of powder what you are going to get in the case of a water atomization. The second type of liquid atomization here is the cryogenic liquid atomization. In cryogenic liquid atomization, so we have a Krupp company. So they have started this method. So that's why they have just given a Krupp company, which is from based on Germany, introduced a novel version of atomization in which the melt is atomized by cryogenic liquid gas, either argon or nitrogen at minus 200 degrees centigrade. During the process, the pressure of liquid gas is increased to 300 bar, while recooling unit prevents the temperature from rising in spite of compression and prevents the cryogenic liquid from vaporizing instantaneously at the jet opening. See, this is basically a new method. New method they have introduced. So where the melt is atomized with a cryogenic liquid gas. So liquid gas in the form of a argon or a nitrogen, and this atomization takes place at a temperature of minus 200 degrees Celsius. So during this process, the pressure of the liquid gas is increased up to 300 bar. That means increase means when you increase the pressure means you need to compress the gas, while the recooling unit prevents the temperature from rising. The recooling unit prevents the temperature from rising in spite of compression and prevents the cryogenic liquid from vaporizing instantaneously at the jet opening. So once the increase to a temperature to a pressure of 300 bar, so the recooling unit will prevent the rise of temperature in spite of compression, and it also prevents these cryogenic liquids to vaporize instantaneously as the jet gets opened. So means high velocity jet. So the resulting powder has the following properties. It is much purer than powder atomized with water and can be compared to the quality of a gas atomized powder. The cooling rate is 10 times higher than in gas atomization and almost reaches the quality of water atomization. Particles of 100 micrometer in diameter are quenched for approximately 106 mole per second. So here, the quality of powder, what we're going to get from this method is much better than that of the atomized powder with the water. And we can compare the quality of this type of powder, this type of method powder with the gas atomized powder also. And also, the cooling rate is 10 times higher than that of the gas atomization and almost reaches the quality of water atomization. So we can have particles of 100 micrometer in diameter and which can be quenched for 100 kelvins per second. Okay? So within 100 Kelvin per second, you can quench it to decrease the temperature. The powders are spherical and have an average size of 6 to 125 micrometer, show satisfactory results in cold forming while having a good flowability. Gas atomized powders have poor green. So powders, as in gas atomization, so here also they will have a spherical like structure and their size varies from 6 to 125 micrometers. And it can have a very good flowability. So this is the second method of production of metal powders, that is by using a liquid atomization technique. Now let us move on to the third step, what we call it as centrifugal atomization. The last method of atomization is centrifugal atomization. So the basis for centrifugal atomization is the ejection of molten metal from a rapidly spinning container, lathe, or a disk. But the basis for atomization, centrifugal atomization, is ejection of molten metal from a rapidly spinning container or a plate or a disk. So let us discuss this in detail one. Okay. This is the process of centrifugal atomization. The sketch we are showing here. Okay. So here we can see. So we have a tungsten cathode. Okay. And then the feed, electrode, brush, spindle, everything is over here. Okay. So we'll discuss this diagram what you can write. This is on the same diagram here. So what happens in centrifugal atomization? A consumable electrode is rotated rapidly in a helium-filled chamber. Okay, we have a consumable electrode. This is a consumable electrode. This is the one what I am showing here. A rotating consumable electrode, or a consumable electrode is rotated in the helium chamber. It is the inert gas chamber here. Okay. The rotating electrode is melted by an arc using a tungsten cathode or a plasma torch. So here we have a tungsten electrode, and this rotating electrode melted by an arc using a tungsten cathode or a plasma torch. The centrifugal force breaks up the molten tip of the electrode into the metal particles. So this is the rotating consumable electrode, which is made into made with a different metal alloys, and the centrifugal force as it rotates. So the tungsten cathode or a plasma torch, which will go into melts this rotating electrode, and because of the centrifugal force, breaks up the molten tip of the electrode into a metal particle. The powder is formed from the melt electrode and is solidified in a vacuum or inert gas environment. This is the basic process involved in the centrifugal electrode centrifugation or centrifugal atomization. Same process you can see here, same process here also you can see here. It is the tungsten tape. Okay, this is an electrode, electric arc. Okay, powder, it will be there, it will be rotating. As it rotates and if it comes in contact, it melts this and the electrode will get consumed. It is why it is called consumed electrode. Electrode will get consumed in the sense it will get the electrode will get converted into the metal powder. This is the basic because of the centrifugal force. The different pictures or sketches we can easily understand how this centrifugal atomization can produce a metal powder. You can see here, this is a vacuum chamber, this is the electrode, and this is a tungsten cathode. Okay, so it will be rotating, and it because of the centrifugal forces, this electrode will be melted and gets converted into the metal powder. This is the basic principle behind the centrifugal electrode. A material in the form of a rod electrode is rotated rapidly while being melted at one end by an electric arc. The molten metal spins off the power bar and solidifies before hitting the walls of the inert gas filled outer container. That's what I told you. The material in the form of a rod electrode. So you can have what type of powder, which metal powder you want. So that metal will be put in the form of an electrode, and it has been rotated in an inert gas chamber, and it has been fed against the tungsten cathode or a plasma arc, and because of the centrifugal force, okay, so the electrode will get melted. It gets melted and it will get consumed. Melted in the sense all these electrodes will get converted, start converting it into a powder. The molten metal spills off the bar and solidifies before hitting the walls of the inert gas filled powder. In the sense it gets molten, it gets melted and it spills off the electrode and it will going to collect it and it will get cooled and solidified in the inert gas chamber and it will form a. This is the process what it has been involved in the centrifugal atomization. The process was developed primarily for the atomization by high purity, low oxygen content titanium alloys and super alloys. Powder particles are smooth and spherical with an average diameter of 200 micrometer. The size ranges 550 to 400 micrometer, typically yields approximately 75% or 35 mesh powder. What do you call it as the size of the powder? The size of the powder, the shape is generally it is very smooth and spherical, and the average diameter it is in the range of 200 micrometers, and the size ranges. So you can obtain also from 50 to 400 micrometers. So what the process of centrifugal atomization. So advantages of atomization over here. Freedom to alloy, you can have any kind of alloys you can do. All particles have same uniform composition. Control of particle shape, size and structure. High purity, low capital. So these are some of the what we call it as the advantages of atomization, that is any atomization, whether it is gas atomization or a liquid atomization or a centrifugal atomization. All these advantages will hold good for all the freedom to alloy. All particles have same uniform composition, control of particle shape and size and structure, high purity and low capital. Okay. So these are all the three techniques we should prepare for the production of metal powders. This is very important. Any one technique will be asked in your examination for 8 marks. The need sketch explain any method they may ask, whether they may ask mechanical methods or like just ball milling, what we discussed, the most important thing. And in the case of chemical methods, carbonyl method is the most important thing. And in the case of an physical process, atomization, any kind of atomization, whether it is a gas, or liquid, or a centrifugal atomization. So you have to understand, you have to write the sketch, and you have to explain the process. So what is the basic principle behind that, and what are the different parts of the process, and how the powder will be formed, and if you can add some more the size and shape as well as the advantages, if it is there are limitations, if it is there, you can add, and it will carries for 8 months. So this is the second part of the powder metallurgy. First one is the general concepts. Second one is the production of metal powders. So the third important thing what we discuss under powder metallurgy is characterization techniques. So characterization techniques in the sense, so till now what we were discussing, it is how the powders can be formed. So we can have a different methods, different techniques we have what we can produce the powders in any one of the form. Of course, each process will have their own merits and demerits. But when you want to produce a pots which are from the powder metallurgy technique or powder metallurgy method, needs to have certain uh, properties. So how we can attain, or how we can achieve the specific properties through powder metallurgy technique. So this is by just controlling the shape and the size as well as the microstructure of the powders. So how we can control, what are the different shapes are there, how these shapes can contribute for the specific properties, how the size will contribute for the specific properties, and how the microstructures will contribute to the specific properties. This is what very important for this, because different parts which will going to make it work from powder metallurgy expects different requirements. Different requirements are very much needed for different parts. So how we can achieve those requirements, and how we can fulfill those requirements. That is the most important. So that we can fulfill, that we can satisfy, that we can obtain by just controlling the powder size, powder shape, and the microstructure. So how we can do that? So how we know what is the size? How we can determine what is the size, what is the shape, and what is the microstructure? Those things will be studied under the heading called characterization technique. Okay. So I'm going to start the characterization technique. Another 10-15 minutes is there. So let us start this, and we're going to continue in the next week also. Same thing here. So let us start with the third part of the powder metallurgy, which we call it as characterization technique. Yeah. In this characterization technique, the most important thing is chemical composition and the structure. The levels of impurity elements in metal powders can be very significant to both the processing and properties of the final product. It is necessary to know whether such elements are present in their elements form or whether they are present in the form of a chemical compound. For example, in reduced iron powder, silicon is present as an impurity in the form of a silica, which is insoluble in most acids. Yeah, this is the most important thing. So when you produce a powder, what we expect is the powder should be made out of the metal what we want. But we don't have such a method where we contains where which can produce only the metal powders which we require. So those powders will also contain certain impurities, and those impurities might be present in their element form, or they might may be present in the form of a chemical form. Why do we need to this? Why do we want to check the impurities? Because the level of impurities in the metal powders are very significant to both the processing and properties of the final product. In the sense, more the impurity, so it will go into hinder, it will go into affect the processing as well as the properties of the final product. So therefore, it is our duty to check what should be the level of impurities that is present in the metal powders which are produced from different. So therefore, so first we should know why to identify how much amount of impurity present in the metal powders what it is being produced. What they have given simple example. For example, in a reduced iron powder, silicon is present as an impurity in the form of a silica, which is insoluble in most acids. The effect of impurity elements on the hardness of the particles and the degree of chemical reactivity during sintering will differ widely, depending on the actual form they are in. The annealing of the powder in the reducing atmosphere is an effective way of reducing oxygen content. Hence, the effect of impurities on the hardness of the particles and the degree of chemical reactivity. So, hardness and the degree of chemical reactivity during sintering. Sintering means you are heating the metal powders to impart a specific binding. Will differ widely, okay, which will depends upon the actual form they are in, whether they are in the elemental form or whether they are in the compound form. The annealing of powder in a reduced atmosphere is an effective way of reducing the oxygen content. In the sense, so you will go to annihilate. Annealing is a one type of heat treatment technique. So annealing of the powder will at a reduced temperature, at reduced atmosphere, will definitely is the best way of reducing the oxygen content present in the metal powder. The microstructure of crystalline powder has significant influence on the behavior of powder during compaction and sintering and on the properties of the final. So one is the impurities, second one is the microstructure. So this microstructure of these powders will definitely influences the behavior of powder during compaction and sintering, and ultimately the properties of the final powder. So how it is, we will going to discuss those things. For in the introduction part, I am just giving what are the different what is characterization of the powders I am just discussing here. One is we have to check the level of impurity. Next, we need to know what is the microstructure, and next later wise, the shape and size also most important. Okay. Fine grain size is why always desirable as it improves the mechanical properties apart from the sinterability and uniformity of dimensional change. So fine grain size, very fine. Because of fine grain size will always improve the mechanical properties apart from sinterability and uniformity of dimensional changes. In the sense, most preferred size of the powder is a fine grain size. Fine grain size, most important. The grain size can be dependent on the powder particle size. The particular powder production method would rapidly cool powder would naturally give rise to small particles and also small grain sizes. The grain size can be dependent on the powder particle size. Then the particular powder production method would naturally give rise to small particles and also gives to small grain sizes. Microporosity associated with the entrapped gases is also common. A cold worked powder, example, ball mill, exhibits a high dislocation density which could be lowered by annealing. This is different things. We'll discuss these things in details in the later. Next comes particle size and shape. The shape of the powder is characterized by the dimensionality of the particle and its contour surface. The most powder particles are three-dimensional in nature and they may be considered as being somewhat equiax. Equiax means it is equal in all three axes. Spherical particles represents the simple and ideal example of a particle shape. Porous particles differ from irregular ones because of the presence of the porosity, which itself may be very irregular in both size and shape. A large amount of porosity makes any shape characterization very difficult. So when we say a shape, how do we describe a shape? Shape is basically it is the dimension and the contour of the surface. Generally, all the metal particles are of three-dimensional, and of course, we just treat them as equiaxes, meaning equally on three axes. And the simplest and ideal example of shape of the particle is spherical. And porous particles differ from irregular ones because of the presence of porosity. So we cannot say uh, the particles are irregular because of its porosity. Porous particles are different and irregular are different because of the presence of porosity, and it may differ very irregular in both shape and size. A large amount of porosity makes any shape characterization very, very difficult. So if you have 80% porosity and shape characterization will become more difficult for that. Therefore, should be the things what you should be very careful while you are defining what is the percentage of porosity is required in the final product. So this is a sketch what we are showing here is A is a grain, B is a powder particle, and C is an agglomerate total. How it forms. In a real mass of powder, all prepared in the same manner, all the particles will have not have the same exact size, even though the shape may be essentially the same. Consequently, we must deal with the size distribution when accurately describing the powders. See, in a real mass of powder, all prepared in the same manner. The powders are prepared in the same manner, there is no difference. All particles will not have the same exact size, even though the shape may be essentially same. The sense, shape may be same, all are spherical only, but their sizes will be different. Not exactly the same. And we must deal with the size distribution with accurately describing the powders. So we have to describe how the size is being distributed. So there are three different ways in which we can describe the distribution of the sizes. So we have four different distribution way. One is called unimodal distribution. There is a one high point or a maximum amount of certain critical size. So here you can see. Okay. So this is called a Gaussian or a log normal. So where one is a high means one will have a maximum distribution and the others will have a certain critical size. This is the one thing what we should have called a Gaussian or unimodal distribution. Second, we have polymodal distribution consists of two or more narrow bands of particle sizes, each with a maximum with virtually no particles within such band. So this is what we are talking about here is the distribution of the sizes. So when we say the size, so size of a powder, so first we should speak with the distribution of the size. What is the distribution? Whether it is a unimodal distribution, whether it is a polymodal distribution or a broadband distribution, like that, different mode of distribution we can explain. So previous slide explained how unimodal was there, and this is the polymodal distribution consisting of two or more narrow bands. You can see here. Okay, so this is the sorry. So the narrow band distribution, you have two or more narrow bands of particle size, each with a maximum with virtually no particles between such bands. So here you can see, here it is 0. So this is the one band and this is the other one band, narrow bands. So each one will have their maximum size, and also virtually there will be no particle between such bands. And the broadband distribution simply corresponds to uniform concentration of particle sizes over a rather broad size interval with virtually no particles having sizes outside that. So this is the broadband. You can easily understand. And this is the irregular distribution, representing continuous and finite variation of particle sizes within a relevant broadly range. Okay. So this is how the size has been distribution. Whenever you want to talk, whenever you want to describe the distribution of sizes, so this is the one method what we can do. Okay. So I will stop at this point, my dear students. So if you have any clarification you want to discuss here. If you have any clarification, students, you can make it out.
ಇವರೇ ಗೆದ್ದಿದ್ದು ಇವರೇ ಗೆದ್ದಿದ್ದು ಬಾರು
Have any clarification, you can make, students. Anybody wants to speak, you can speak. I have just unmuted everybody here. Last 1 minute left out. Any clarification? And I will be posting one assignment question on Google Classroom shortly. Please answer for the assignment and we'll submit it in the Google Classroom only. Shortly, I will going to put it, and they already have uploaded this course material in the Google Classroom. Okay. So if you have any clarifications, any doubts, because these portions will not be covered once the class starts. Please start preparing. We keep on telling many times. So not even a single internal test has been conducted for you till now. So within a very short notice and within a short interval of time, so you will be having internal test also. Okay, so start preparing for the test. Okay, and prepare for the exams also, because I don't know when we're going to have regular classes. Till now, we don't have any information regarding the extension of the term. It is the semester term. We don't know whether it will be expanded or not, but we have to see. Okay. So whatever things, if you have any clarifications, you can make, and I will going to post in the assignments in the Google Classroom shortly. So please try to answer and you have to submit, because it will also carry marks for you. So assignment carries marks, and we are planning to have one quiz also in shortly. Everything will be intimated within a very short interval. Okay.